So, this is the intake manifold. Well, this isn't. But this right here is the intake manifold that I'm making for my K24. Got some mail on top of my engine block. So, started out as 92 millimeter. 93 millimeter aluminum intercooler tubing and the OEM intake manifold, which I chopped up into this. This is just a PPA manifold. It's came off the Eco model of the K24. It's a Japanese engine, JDM engine, but it's, you know, just standard Eco K24. So I've been cutting this to shape. I had to weld it. It started out as 2 tubes. You can see my beautiful, okay, well, ignore that. You can see my okay, well, shoot, ignore that one too. You can see my relatively nice aluminum welds. They did penetrate decently, so. And then I cut it at the bottom here, and this is going to be super hard to film, so that it will slot onto this, and I'm going to have to weld a little piece here. Might be able to use some of these scraps. As you can see, there was a past attempt, but we don't talk about that. So I just cut this part because this is loosely based off the Skunk2 Ultra. So it's a log manifold, but unlike the OEM manifold, that's just a tube basically. This one tapers at an angle and it forces airflow, in theory. I mean, I say in theory. The real ones do it. I don't know if mine's going to do it super well, but the real ones, it allows them to create more air pressure on these rear 2 cylinders. You know, I just kind of copied the design. It is not one-to-one. The real manifold, I think, is longer and also a little bit bigger in diameter, and I think it tapers from like here to here. I didn't want to do that because if you do that, you decrease your capacity. So this will have, well, when it's all fully welded, this should have slightly larger capacity than this manifold. I mean, if we just like put them side by side, that's roughly how much capacity is there. Let's see if I can get a good shot. You can kind of see this one's going to be quite a bit bigger. This is, I think, roughly a 1 liter. This is probably going to be closer to a 1.5. I was hoping to get it close to a 2, like a 1.8 or something, but I don't know if it's going to be quite that much. But anyways, I kind of copied the design, except I didn't copy it exactly. I made it start tapering halfway, and I think I also made it taper to not as far down, whatever the word is for that. Well, I didn't put the dimensions on this piece, but so I designed it in CAD. I modeled it in CAD, and then I print out these pieces to help me cut it out. So that's what I've been doing here. Sorry for the abysmal camera work. I cut out this piece here. The bottom, I used my drawings as templates and just kind of quote-unquote eyeballed it. I mean, I did measure, of course, but just use my drawings and some basic measurements to get the right angle. But yeah, so I just cut this piece out, as you can see. And this is the template for the plug that's going to have to go here. And unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure how. I think it has to do with how cylinders are modeled in CAD. But this is like when you cut a cylinder on a plane. So like this is a plane, so you see how it's flat. Well, when you cut a cylinder like that, because the cylinder is a curve, it leaves it with like these impossibly sharp edges, but they don't show up super well in CAD unless you like really zoom in on them. So it fits pretty well. Hard to see. It fits pretty well, but as you can see towards the end, there is space. So when I cut out my blank out of some aluminum sheet, I'm gonna have to make it probably 2 or 3 millimeters wider on the very ends, and probably like a millimeter longer, because I put some welds on the ends of this to reinforce it. Kind of unnecessary in hindsight. It was also partly me practicing, because I am a certified welder, but I haven't welded aluminum in like 3 years, 2 years, yeah, 2 years. I've never welded aluminum pipe. This is my first time, well, technically, that's my first time welding aluminum pipe, but this was a crapshoot. You can see I had to grind down all my welds, and they weren't very good, but so I kind of used these outer rim as test zone, so you can see mixed results. But also it does benefit in some ways because it beefs this area up, which means I should be able to get better penetration welds. Not that it really matters, because you know, it's an intake manifold, but you know, kind of matters. I will eventually put boost on it, so there'll be some pressure, but it's getting close to being done. I tried to take as much off this old crappy intake as possible. I might end up stealing this this plate. I don't know. I bought some aluminum plate to use, but I'm kind of thinking about it, because that would be a nice template to build off of. I don't know. Still thinking about it. It's pretty thick, pretty sturdy, but see if I can get a shot of kind of what it'll look like. I don't have I'm literally just using my phone, so I don't have a proper camera set up, but I'm going to see if I can replicate decently well what it'll roughly look like once it's been welded onto the headers. I think that's the right term, right? Headers, intake headers. Man, it's the dang tubes that run to my intake, man. Whatever you want to call it. Let's see. Oh, this is going to be hard to do. Well, maybe not. So, when it's done, it'll look something roughly like that. Of course, I'll have to weld up this little gap down there, and weld up those sides. But yeah, it'll look something roughly like that. I may also kind of been researching it, but I've been like holding off on it. But I might also polish these. Port polish, whatever you call it. I did clean them out, because anybody who's ever worked on an eco engine, especially one of these like 4 cylinders like a Honda or a Toyota 4-cylinder, knows that these intakes are super freaking dirty. As you can see, I think that's intake side, because they recirculate some of the exhausts, and then also the exhaust timing is reduced, so it ends up having to keep the carbon in the intake longer, and it makes it poo-poo looking. So I cleaned that out, and then a couple other things. But yeah, besides the initial screw up, which wasted about 20 bucks, and I don't know, probably 5-7 hours of my time, it's been going pretty good. Definitely design things in CAD, guys. That's actually that's probably the #1 reason why I messed that one up, which is a blessing because the welds on it look like trash. But I just tried eyeballing it and just measuring things out and coming up with stuff on the fly. Didn't even draw it, and yeah, just CAD things. CAD is so easy. Use Onshape, use whatever. If you're going to engineering school, go to your computer lab and use your school's engineering program. But use CAD, guys. It's amazing. It's awesome. And make templates. These are awesome as well. Of course, I have to change them a little bit, but that's okay. It's better than trying to figure it out myself. And yeah, so that's the intake manifold. Like I said, not done yet. Not even close, but definitely making progress. As for, I guess, kind of briefly go over costs and stuff. So I think the Skunk2 manifolds, if I remember right, I think if you buy like an official Skunk one, Skunk2 Ultra, whatever, Street, I don't know. There's like 5 billion different versions. They're all the same thing. But, you know, they're like $250, $300. They're pretty expensive. And they're typically on back order as well. That nice weld. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So if you buy one from Skunk, that's how much they are. You can go on eBay and buy, they're basically like factory rejects from, I guess, the factory that makes the Skunk ones, but they're just like the ones that didn't pass QC. And they're like 150 bucks. And some people have had pretty good success with them. I mean, at the end of the day, an intake's an intake, you know. Does it bring air in? You know. But they do have quality control issues, especially with like finish. They're all cast, so they have pitting and stuff like that. So I think so far, if you exclude the screw up, which I am, because that's not fair, I think it's $20 for the tube, and then I think I paid another $20 or $30 for the aluminum plating I bought. I don't know. We'll just round up and say $40 for the plating. No. Say $30 for the plating, $20 for the tube. So like 50 bucks so far. And then I had to go out and buy a pack of these electrodes, so I don't know. I guess we can count that. So less than $100 for an intake so far. And most of it's just reusing the stuff that already like came on the thing. Like, I mean, I just cut it off. Yeah, pain in the butt, by the way. Trying to like get up in here and cut that. So that sucks. But you can reuse a lot of parts off the stock intake. Obviously, these runners, headers, whatever you want to call them. Definitely reuse those, unless you've got like better ones that you're going to use for some reason. But honestly, like, I did a little bit of research, not a whole lot of research. Didn't measure it myself, but I did do a little bit of research. And the RBB headers, or intake, the actual like headers, the tubes, these little runners that go to your, well, shoot, that go to your over here, that go to your intake side of your head on your engine, they're like the same size. Like, the only real difference on the RBB intakes, which by the way cost almost as much as the Skunk2 Ultra intakes, or at least this part of the intake. I don't know, maybe the runners are separate, but the only real difference between them is the plenum, this piece, and the throttle body. These are like the same size. I think How big are these actually? Yeah, these are 41 millimeters. If I remember correctly, I think the RBB ones were like 43 millimeters. So, you know, you're talking about like that much of a difference. Barely noticeable. They were either 43 or 45, which if it's 45 millimeters, that's a little bit better, but still, you're talking about like, you know, what, 2 millimeters on both sides? That's not a whole lot. So I saw that and I was like, well, the tubes, the runners are not the biggest restriction on these Honda intakes, which these are super short, by the way. Like, these are not very big at all. The biggest limiting factor is the plenum and the throttle body, which is why I'm actually going to put a bigger throttle body on this. So I was like, well, it doesn't make any sense to spend God knows how much money or go to a junkyard and still probably spend a ton of money on an RBB header, or RBB headers, if they're only going to be like, you know, literally that much. Okay, well, that looks really big. Hold on. That's not quite 2 millimeters. Only that much difference, roughly, on either side. You know, like, yeah, 40 here. Looks better when I do it like that. Only that much difference on either side. I don't know. To me, that's just not worth the money. You know, which if you're running boost, which eventually I will be running boost, it probably matters even less. I could see it mattering if you're NA only, but if you're running boost, I don't think it really matters. So just save yourself the money and either go with the aftermarket like Skunk or knockoff, whatever, intakes, or just use your stock headers and make your own. Which, don't do this unless you actually have like welding equipment and a printer and, you know, CAD skills and all that, because it's kind of hard. I have all those things and it's still kind of hard, but it's fun. You know, you save yourself some money. Of course, all the money you save, you lose in time. You know, even if I hadn't made the mistakes that I made over there, still probably going to end up taking me almost, you know, 7, 8, 10 hours to finish this. So, you know, what you save in money, you lose in time. So, it's not about money. I mean, it's kind of about the money, but it's also just about like the love of the game. And I love doing this stuff. I love taking things apart, as you can see, and putting them back together and doing cool stuff, doing custom work. I wanted to do something custom to this engine, and this is probably, well, this is definitely the first thing. And, you know, it's not about having the most fastest car or the best performing setup, because I can guarantee you the Skunk intakes probably perform better than this. You know, it's not even necessarily about saving the most money. Like, I love saving money, don't get me wrong. It's just about having fun and making cool stuff and having a memory. And you know, the nice thing about making things is that not only do you make a memory, but you make a memorabilia. You know, not only are you creating something that you can look back on and remember in your mind, but you also have a physical product that you can see and feel and touch and show to other people. And that's cool. So, I don't know. Go out there and make stuff.